Beyond Lumina, Episode 15, Revelations. In that time, the old world you've known so long, where you were nurtured and where you also fell silent, will be destroyed and vanish, and it shall be no more. But through its death, it shall give birth to a new world. These are the words of Inchalin. Glory to the One. I always learn a lot whenever Sauter Tlarens comes to see us, said Usian to Rini, as the two of them returned to Philony from the city of Omnis. She's always so nice, too. Philony was on watch duty at the port for Aezic and the others. It had been 7 Kostian rotations, about 2 normal rotations, since they departed, stowed away on the Ascendancy frigate. I must say, Philony replied when they sat down with him, the more I hear and the more I think about it, the more logical what your religion proclaims seems to me, at least the basic stuff. For one, I now can't see how an ordered yet changing universe could come to be on its own, because it didn't really have to be this way, and the universe could not have created itself anyway. How could something, everything, that began to exist, or didn't need to exist, do so without a cause? And there is no doubt to me that I'm different from the animals of the system. Sure, some may seem expert craftsmen in their own right, but to say what a wood eater does is the same as a piece of art created by a master woodworker goes too far. Some animals may be able to instinctually grasp how a basic tool works, like a stick or a rock, or even a blade, but they could never come up with the inventions that I have, or even how to simply smelt Aetherium. And that goes for nature as well as animals. Sure, natural events are strong, much of the time stronger than we can hope to contain, but it remains an unthinking act. Where else could intellect come from, but from intellect? How could nature bestow something that it itself does not have? Villainy paused for a moment. The other two were taken aback by his proclamation. But then he started again. Of course, the hang-up I'm having is how intelligent human life could have come up separately on all of these different worlds if it weren't something that could somehow come about naturally. I wish I could answer your questions, Rini smiled. But those things are way beyond me. You'd be much better off asking Sauter or one of the Foders their response. It's no problem, Villainy smiled back. It was just a thought. The three sat at the port for a while together in silence. Then, Rini asked what everyone was wondering. Do you think they were successful? If everything went the way they planned, they should have the ship by now, and might even be on their way back. They could be, Villainy tried to reassure her, yet be realistic. But with something like this, they could easily hit a few snags. The concern grew on Rini's face. But don't worry, Villainy started again. Zario and Aezic are way more than those grunts could possibly handle. I hope you're right, Rini murmured. They do seem strong. She sat a moment longer with them, then got up. I guess I should head back to town now. I will see you next rotation. Be well, you two. They said their goodbyes, then the 2 mercenaries sat alone in silence, until Usian said, I wonder how Hawk is doing, and Ballant and the others, if they were able to find any trace of him. I don't like us being split up like this, not at all. Neither do I, Usian, replied Villainy. Neither do I. Feels like our merry band has broken apart, and the pieces are scattered and hidden across Lumina. I guess all we can do is keep having faith in them, that they'll all make it back. And this is the last time we should ever split up, Usian somberly declared. Just then, the ground shook, making the 2 mercenaries fight to maintain their balance. Man, these tremors are a little annoying, Villainy said, That's 4 now since we've been on planet. Wonder what causes it. Chief Oshu, I don't understand, Aezic began. Everything I said to you was the truth. What happened to make you think I'm lying to you? The chief, about to leave the room once more, where Aezic and Vala were, turned back toward him. You say you do not know the Supreme Order, yet you travel with them, and you call them friend, a term which I found can hold no meaning for your kind in the first place. I tell you, I don't know who the Supreme Order is, Aezic implored. Perhaps we can clear this up if we could see our companions. You will be seeing them, the chief began, in my throne room, as I pass judgment on you all. Then he left the room, and the guard locked the door. What in Lumina could have happened? Aezic said, more to himself than to Vala, who had remained mostly quiet the whole time. I'm not sure, Vala replied. Do you think the Supreme Order has something to do with the Royal Ascendancy? That was my best guess as well, Aezic answered her. But we really can't know for sure until we meet some of them, I suppose. It seems we already have, and we're about to find out. There's something about the chief. I have a feeling we can convince him to trust us again, at least enough not to kill us yet. Then, native guards returned to their room, found them, and took them back to the chief. There they found already before the leader of the natives, Voderglaus, and the rest of the Kostians, and all 3 of the Ascendancy soldiers once again, who were now all bound. Zarya was the only one missing. Judging by the state of the Ascendancy soldiers, he could tell something happened while he and Vala were gone. Only the one who had stayed with them in the escape pod was currently conscious. Where's Zarya? Aezic immediately asked Klaus. He went into the forest, looking for the both of you, the Foda replied quietly. Silence, until I address you, Chief Oshu blared. Now, Aezic, tell me why you're in the company of these 3, the chief pointed to the Ascendancy soldiers, from the Supreme Order, and why the pod in which you crashed also bears its mark. Chief, Aezic started, his suspicions now confirmed, and his cover now blown. It seems clear to me now that what you call the Supreme Order is known as the Royal Ascendancy outside of your world. That is who these people are, and where the escape pod came from. As I told you, we are enemies of the Ascendancy, and hijacked their ship in order to save these people, who are from a world subjugated just like yours, but for a very long time. They are not our allies. Then why are they with you? The chief asked. And why did one of the others call one of them a friend? I can answer that, if I may, Klaus spoke up. You see, he addressed both Aezic and the chief. After Zarya went after you, the other 2 Ascendancy soldiers came back to the pod. Klaus looked at the chief. Just before your people showed up. Then, in the fight, Grim here got a hold of one of the pistols, and he saved young Artis over there. That is why I called him a friend. We brought them along, Aezic finished answering, because we weren't about to slaughter a bunch of people, even if they were enemy soldiers. They were helpless. The chief sat staring at Aezic for a long time before finally responding. I see. You are indeed a most interesting person, Aezic Zin. I apologize for being suspicious of you, but these revelations will now help us to better see the truth of the world for ourselves. It seems this royal ascendancy has kept us very much in the dark since they've arrived. Looking at the guards, the chief said something in the native tongue. Then the guards dragged the 3 ascendancy soldiers away. What are you going to do with them? Klaus asked. They will be imprisoned for now, and eventually executed. Then please, I implore you, let me first go to the one that saved the boy. I believe he will join us, and I will take full responsibility for him while we are here. Fine, the chief agreed. Go, then, but do not let him out of your sight. One false move, and we will kill him, and you will take his place in our prison." "Thank you, Chief," Klaus said, bowing and turning to leave. "Wait," Aezic said. "What about Zario? You don't know anything else?" "Sorry," Klaus replied. "We can't even be sure how long it was after you two were captured that he left, since we were all unconscious when you were taken." "We had reports that others were in the forest, mostly Supreme Order soldiers," said the chief. "But there was another man there too, who didn't wear the Order's uniform. He was, however, taken by them to their main facilities, on the coast near here that I had mentioned to you earlier." "Chief," Aezic began, "is there any way you can assist me in getting over there to help my friend? Like I said, we are wanted by them. He's in grave danger if they've captured him." "He's in as much trouble as he would have been had he not been wanted," the chief started. "But don't worry. It turns out that you and I have similar goals. It seems to be destiny that brought you here now. Too long I've waited for the right time to strike against these off-world invaders, and you and your people are the first I've ever seen from space that did not bow to the Supreme Order. You fill me with hope. This must be the time I was waiting for. Will you join me in this fight, Aezic? Will you storm the Supreme Order's fortress, rescue your ally, and burn it down to the ground, along with all of the evil things they're designing within? What say you?" Another war, Aezic thought. How many am I going to start before this is all over? They had been thrown into nearly the worst-case scenario, far from their original missions, even farther from Aezic's original mission. All he could do now was hope to keep alive those with whom he was there, and he was not about to leave Zarya behind after all they've been through. "I will help you. When do we begin?" "I don't understand, sir," the young first private of the SOAR military, boss, said to his commander. "Why did General Gaster bring us on this mission? Why wouldn't he just take his normal crew?" "I can't be sure myself, Private," replied Sergeant Beta. He had been pondering the same question, however, and he did not like any of the conclusions he could draw. The two had been recruited to the team of a war hero, one of the leaders of the Tansorian Federation, and were now aboard his frigate, known as the Apurs, the ship aboard his flagship that his own personal crew used. Never in his short career would Voss have imagined being aboard such a renowned vessel, one nearly as well known as its commander. The mission, as far as they were aware, involved their world's prime minister, long since thought to be kidnapped, or worse. The news that the general received from their foreign visitors no doubt had something to do with their leader, Beta thought. And those who brought the message must be allies. By the look of the other soldiers, the rest of the small crew General Gaster brought along were just as on edge as Beta and Kvass. The comms turned on, and the leader of the foreign soldiers, the Ravinian military's Lieutenant J, addressed the Saurian crew. "General, you'll need to disable any tracking systems you have on board, and disable your comms as well. Just stay on our tail. We won't be too long before reaching our destination." General Gaster didn't yet fully trust the Ravinians, but he did perceive Jay to be genuine. And from what he read in the letter from the Prime Minister himself, he had little choice but to trust that they were really on the Prime Minister's side. His sharp instincts told him that this was a momentous event that would reshape the entirety of Lumina, for better or worse. If this is how it is, he thought, then we will not go down easy. "Aye, Lieutenant, we acknowledge, and we'll follow you in. See you on the other side," he said, and with that the comms closed and they cut all communication to the outside, hidden now from even their own people. It won't be long before they start wondering what happened to us, Gaster thought once more, but we should have enough time before they send anyone to look for us, unless it's even worse than we think. The crew he brought with him was a small battalion of mostly his own soldiers, save for Beata and Kvas. None of them, however, were told anything other than the importance and secrecy of the mission. Only Kvas and Beata were told it had to do with the Prime Minister. Their lower ranks made them easier to trust in this situation, and not knowing at all what to expect, Gaster thought they might be able to serve the Prime Minister well during his exile. Looking at the star map, Gaster could see as they continued to travel without navigation systems, they were making their way farther and farther from any current planetary path. It looked as though they were being led into the deepest and most empty part of Lumina, the Null Zone, a large, empty space into which no planet journeyed, perhaps the only safe place left. Yes, it's true. High Master Rend of the Royal Ascendancy gave a deep and menacing chuckle. One Mecha Launer of the Dalcyan rebel group, along with Maddox, Valanth, and Argyle, captured as they attempted to return to the scene of one of their many crimes and aid in the prison break of their friend, Bo Hawk. Does it bring you hope to know he still lives? It shouldn't, because by now, his execution is imminent, as will be the execution of the other 3 Dalcyan trash. Zaryo was nearly shaking with rage, completely forgetting the fear he just felt at the sight he saw earlier, and the weapon he knew was inches away from his captor. He couldn't know for sure if the Ascendancy dog was telling the truth or not, but he couldn't figure out how else High Master Rend knew exactly who was on the ship and where they had gone. Then Rend began speaking again, as though something else just occurred to him. Oh, well, of course, you have an idea of what this is, don't you? He referred back to the plasma pistol he had just placed inside a compartment in the arm of his chair, the one that had shot through Drop's synth plate like it was cloth. You are, after all, the first exposed. Reports indicated it had taken quite a toll on your health, but you seem to be doing well enough still. You must have been quite the physical specimen back before your incident. To Lumina with my incident, Zaryo shot back. If you hurt them, you're all going to pay. He, of course, could not even budge the aether cuffs that bound his arms behind him. A toll shall be exacted, High Master Rend rumbled. But it is not mine to pay. It will start with you, and end with the rest of your new friends, Lieutenant Aezic Zin and his crew. You've chosen the worst place to touch down, the place that will now become your grave. He paused for a moment and continued. But you don't get the same quick treatment as the slime on the floor. He referred to Drop, who still lay there, dead. Your death will be a little slower, and much more agonizing. Perhaps we may even learn something interesting from your condition. Addressing the guards who brought Zaryo, he said, Take him back to the cell, and bring Drop's remaining crew in here. Zaryo shouted back as he was dragged away. You better hope that I don't get out of here. You and the rest of you mere scum. The predator heeds not the clamorings of the prey, Rend replied, rather casually. In a similar prison, deep in the mountains of Animov on Ravina, Valanth, Mecha, and Argyle awaited their similar fate. Mecha feared it was the end. Argyle tried consoling her, and Valanth tried thinking of a way out. I don't get it, Valanth said quietly once he knew they were alone. How did they know who we were and exactly where we would be? Something doesn't add up here. It's like we were tracked the whole time. But when could they have had a chance to do that? The last we saw of either Ascendancy or Alliance was on Sotama when the bounty on Aezic was broadcast. We even checked the ship over since then, when we landed on Kostia. Then they heard the door to the prison swing open, and footsteps approaching. Balance stopped talking. Then 4 guards approached and unlocked the cell. One directed the others to take Valanth, and 2 came in and grabbed him off the cold stone bench, giving him a swift shot to the gut, and dragged him out of the cell, locking Mecca and Argyle back inside. "No!" Mecca screamed, as Valanth was taken away, and led up through the military barracks and into a familiar corridor. They took a couple of turns, passing many closed doors, until coming to the one Valanth expected they would. Entering, he was once more face to face with one Captain DeRoy Odoron. "Well, well," Captain Odoron chuckled. "One of my assets has returned to me, but not in the same manner that I left him." "Odoron," Valanth seethed. "Or should I just call you Master Omen now? We did everything you asked of us, and in return you set us up and tried to have us taken out. So we were just as expendable as the rest of your lackeys?" "You got it now, lackey," Odoron chided, "though a little less expendable than some. You forced my hand when you became too close to Lieutenant Zin. I knew what your leader was thinking. I knew he would turn on me. What I want to know now, though, is why you are helping Zin. What is he after that you're pursuing?" "I don't know what he's up to, and I couldn't care less," Valanth answered. "As you can see, I'm here, and not with him. If you have questions, I suggest you take it up with him yourself." Odoron motioned for the guards to close in on Valanth, and they began to punch and kick him until he was beaten to the ground. "If you really don't care about the Alliance officer, tell me everything you know about his mission. Surely there's something." "Mere scum," Valanth spat back. "Even if I knew something, what makes you think I'd tell someone like you? Zin must be some kind of fool to believe you were a Ravinian captain." The guards began to beat him once again, until he was dazed and coughing on the floor. "Oh, you're right. What am I thinking? You're just like your friend Hawk, aren't you? You wouldn't break no matter what we do to you. Well, too bad for him. We know that he can't be of any more use to us, and he isn't much longer for Lumina. You, however, may have a different weakness, one that is currently imprisoned below us, named Mecha Launer." Valanth quickly met the menacing gaze of Captain Odoron, who was really Master Omen of the Royal Ascendancy, disguised as a captain of the Ravinian military and controlling all activity on Ravina. "Don't you touch her. If I knew anything, I would tell you. I don't care about Aezic Zin or what he's doing, and neither does Mecha. That's why we are here and no longer with him, like I just told you." Valanth could see a shift in Omen's expression, and he knew he believed him this time, but he was not very happy about it. "So," Omen started, "are you saying that you have no useful information to give me either? Then I suppose we can just begin dispatching you all, starting with young Miss Launer." "They're on Kostia," Valanth finally said. Omen stopped and listened. "That's all I know. Our ship was damaged out of Sotama, and we were helped by a group of Kostians, who gave us shelter. We left with the ship ourselves as soon as it was fixed." Master Omen waited a moment to make sure Valanth wouldn't continue, then spoke again. "Is that all you know? I already know all of that, and more myself. It seems you really are useless. Take him away and prepare to execute them all, along with Bohawk," he said to the guards. "Wait," Valanth shouted. "We can still be useful to you. I'll do whatever you want, just don't hurt Mecha." Omen held up a hand to halt the guards. "And what about the others?" he asked Valanth. "Spare them too, and I'll do whatever you say," Valanth replied. "What exactly would you have me do with them?" said Omen. Valanth answered, "Just keep them here where they are. Just don't execute them." And what's to stop you from coming back at some point and aiding in their escape yourself? Balin thought a moment. Tell the guards in the prisons, if they see me, kill me on sight and execute the others. Master Omen was intrigued by the offer. Fine, I accept those terms. I can think of many different things you may indeed be able to help with. But don't get upset if you find yourself in a situation where you're perhaps in over your head. For this is a service to you, keeping you and your friends alive on my authority. Be sure you do not make me regret this decision. But I need to be assured that they're alive, Balin quickly added. I'm not just going to take your word for it, Omen. Of course, Master Omen replied. I will allow you to remain informed of their condition on occasion. They will be kept alive and comfortable. Enough. Balin didn't trust Omen at all, but he didn't have any other choice. This deal was the only way to extend the lives of him and his friends, especially Mecha, whom he had always loved. He hoped Hawk could handle the rest. Balin asked, "Then what do you want me to do?" It seemed to be ages, drifting in the emptiness of space, with no positioning or communications equipment to guide them, before the Tansorian Federation frigate, the Epurs, captained by General Gaster, arrived at their destination. The ship that led them to this remote place, the Null Zone, manned by soldiers of the Alliance world of Ravina's military, signaled to them by drifting closer to their ship. All right, men, General Gaster started. It looks like it's about time to see what our friends have in store for us. Be ready for anything. The Federation soldiers, including Sergeant Bieta and First Private Kvass, gathered their gear and prepared to embark on their secret mission. Kvass was nearly jumping out of his boots, shaking with anxiety and anticipation. This was a much more frightening post than his old sentry duty. Bieta nudged his subordinate, then gave him a reassuring nod, letting the young soldier know that he had his back. Kvass returned the gesture, and then refocused himself. Soon, in the black space speckled with starlight, they began to see the silhouette of something quite large, massive, in fact. As they neared it, they saw the dark shape become more defined. It was a great flagship, one like they had not seen before. Gaster suspected it was a Ravinian ship. Now they would truly find out if these Ravinians were friend or foe, for the General's frigate, as renowned as it was, had no chance against an entire fleet of ships. If it was a trap, however, they had missed their opportunity, the General thought, as they were led into the open docking bay of the flagship by their guide. If it was a trap, the General figured they would be able to hold the ship inside the bay. His mind eased slightly. Then he was altogether relieved, as he saw his leader, the Prime Minister of Sor, arrive in the docking bay to greet them unhindered. "My lord," General Gaster greeted the Prime Minister joyously as he trotted out of the ship. "I am overjoyed to see you are safe and unharmed after all this time." "Lugard, my friend." The Prime Minister approached him and embraced him warmly. "I'm glad you made it here safely. There may yet still be hope for our cause." The rest exited the ship, and the Ravinians too, including Jay, who began to make his way toward headquarters, before he was stopped by a young Ravinian soldier coming from that direction. "Lieutenant Jay, sir, come quickly," the young man panted. "The news is talking about Lieutenant Zin.